The next time you hear any of these media clowns or Democrat clowns that show on these programs with these media clowns tell you about Trump not acting presidential, that they don't like a tweet or so forth and so on, tell them to stick it. Look what these Democrats, look what the media have done to us as a nation. Look where they've dragged us in the false allegations of 10 weekends of gang rapes. False allegations, one after another. No proof whatsoever. None. Zero. Zero. They want to control the investigation. They want to control the FBI. I'm telling you, it's the modern Stasi. That's what it is. And the media, the free press they say they believe in. They don't believe in the free press. They believe in the freedom to destroy this country. That's what they believe in. Now, Judge Kavanaugh has written an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that literally just came out. I want to read it to you. I haven't read it yet. I want to read it to you. I was deeply honored to stand at the White House July 9 with my wife Ashley and my daughters Margaret and Liza to accept President Trump's nomination to succeed my former boss and mentor, Justice Anthony Kennedy, on the Supreme Court. My mom, Martha, one of the first women to serve as a Maryland prosecutor and trial judge, my inspiration to become a lawyer, sat in the audience with my dad, Ed. That night, I told the American people who I am and what I believe. I talked about my 28-year career as a lawyer, almost all of which has been in public service. I talked about my 12 years as a judge on the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, often called the second most important court in the country. In my 5 years of service in the White House of President George W. Bush. Talked about my long record of advancing and promoting women, including as a judge. Majority of my 48 law clerks have been women, and as a longtime coach of girls' basketball teams. As I explained that night, a good judge must be an umpire, a neutral and impartial arbiter, who favors no political party, litigant, or policy. As Justice Kennedy has stated, judges do not make decisions to reach a preferred result. Judges make decisions because the law and the Constitution compel the result. Over the past 12 years, I have ruled sometimes for the prosecution, sometimes for criminal defendants, sometimes for workers and sometimes for businesses, sometimes for environmentalists and sometimes for coal miners. In each case, I follow the law. I do not decide cases based on personal or policy preferences. I am not a pro-plaintiff or pro-defendant judge. I am not a pro-prosecution or pro-defense judge. I am a pro-law judge. As Justice Kennedy showed us, a judge must be independent, not swayed by public pressure. Our independent judiciary is the crown jewel of our constitutional republic. The Supreme Court is the last line of defense for the separation of powers, for the rights and liberties guaranteed by the Constitution. The Supreme Court must never be viewed as a partisan institution. The justices do not sit on opposite sides of an aisle. They do not caucus in separate rooms, as I've said repeatedly. If confirmed to the court, I would be part of a team of 9 committed to deciding cases according to the Constitution and laws of the United States. I would always strive to be a team player. Now, during the confirmation process, I met with 65 senators and I explained my approach to the law. I participated in more than 30 hours of hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I submitted written answers to nearly 1,300 additional questions. I was grateful for the opportunity. After all those meetings and after my initial hearing concluded, I was subjected to wrongful and sometimes vicious allegations. My time in high school and college, more than 30 years ago, has been ridiculously distorted. My wife and daughters have faced vile and violent threats. And against that backdrop, I testified before the Judiciary Committee last Thursday to defend my family, my good name, and my lifetime of public service. My hearing testimony was forceful and passionate. That is because I forcefully and passionately denied the allegation against me. At times, my testimony, both in my opening statement and response to questions, reflected my overwhelming frustration at being wrongly accused without corroboration of horrible conduct completely contrary to my record and character. My statement and answers also reflected my deep distress at the unfairness of how this allegation has been handled. I was very emotional last Thursday, more so than I've ever been. I might have been too emotional at times. I know that my tone was sharp, and I said a few things I should not have said. I hope everyone can understand that I was there as a son, husband, and dad. I testified with 5 people foremost in my mind: my mom, my dad, my wife, and most of all, my daughters. Going forward, you can count on me to be the same kind of judge and person I have been for my entire 28-year legal career. Hardworking, even-keeled, open-minded, independent, and dedicated to the Constitution and the public good. As a judge, I have always treated colleagues and litigants with the utmost respect. I've been known for my courtesy on and off the bench. I have not changed. I will continue to be the same kind of judge I've been for the last 12 years. And I will continue to contribute to our country as a coach, volunteer, and teacher. Every day, I will try to be the best husband, dad, and friend I can be. I will remain optimistic. On the sunrise side of the mountain, I will continue to see the day that is coming, not the day that is gone. I revere the Constitution. I believe that an independent and impartial judiciary is essential to our constitutional republic. If confirmed by the Senate to serve on the Supreme Court, I will keep an open mind in every case and always strive to preserve the Constitution of the United States and the American rule of law. Brett M. Kavanaugh. It's a beautiful op-ed. Won't matter one whit to the Democrats or the media. And the 3 Republican stooges are really weighing their own careers and positioning themselves and don't give a whit about Judge Kavanaugh, his wife, his kids, or his parents. Now, several times the judge mentions in this op-ed the Constitution, and therein lies his problem. The reason he's hated by the left, the reason he's under attack by the Democrats, the reason the media went with gossip and rumor and really defamation is because his declared support for the Constitution. They do not support it. They do not support the Constitution. Except they'll take the free press part because they think it protects them. But when it comes to the Constitution, they trash constitutional originalists and textualists. We're throwbacks, don't you know? And unless we embrace the progressive agenda and enshrine it as a constitutional matter, thereby rewriting the Constitution with merely 5 justices, then we and Justice Kavanaugh must be destroyed. It is the Constitution that gets in the way of the progressive agenda, don't you see? It's the Constitution that they despise. They make no sense whatsoever when they talk about the Constitution, when they talk about precedent. When they talk about precedent, we know, I suppose, that they must embrace Dred Scott. They must embrace Plessy. They must embrace Korematsu. That's precedent. It's precedent that was rejected as precedent. The case of Dred Scott, it took a civil war to undo it. The case of Plessy, it took 58 years to undo it. The case of Korematsu, it still hasn't been undone. Those were activist judges who did not follow the Constitution of the United States. That's why this is an important debate. They insist on abortion. It's not in the Constitution, so they demand precedent. They insist on their entire social agenda, their environmental agenda. It's not in the Constitution, but they demand it. They insist on an all-powerful centralized government to advance their agenda. That's not in the Constitution either. And they insist that the individual and states, well, that they accept this new rewritten Constitution despite the fact that you and I have never participated in amending it. It's because Judge Kavanaugh reveres the Constitution, not just in name, but in action, as he declares, that he is despised and he is hated, because it's a threat to the progressive agenda. So the more he talks about reverence for the Constitution, the more he talks about following the Constitution, the more he is despised. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel, and all you law enforcement folks out there, and we're very hopeful that by this weekend we have a new Supreme Court justice. I will see you on Tuesday. I'll see you on Sunday on Fox. God bless you.